Want to call to order the Livingston Parish Council meeting for July 9th, 2020. If y'all would take this time right now to silence your cell phones. And Ms. Sandy, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Wascom?
Here.
Mr. Talbert?
Here.
Mr. Mike is absent. Mr. McMorris?
Here.
Mr. Delat?
Here.
Mr. Harris? Mr. Girlinghouse?
Here.
Mr. Ard?
Here.
Mr. King?
Here. Mr. Harris will be here in just a second. Mr. King, I see the invocations on you tonight. You have somebody to do that for you?
I do. I would like to ask Miss Sandy to please pray over our proceedings tonight.
Lord God in heaven, Lord, we're so blessed as a parish, and we thank you for your grace and your mercy. Lord, we pray for our nation and our state of Louisiana with everything that's going on all over the world. Lord, we need you more now than ever. Lord, we pray that your Holy Spirit would feel welcome here tonight, and that you would guide the councilman and the parish president and our attorney, Mr. Brad, to make good and wise decisions on behalf of the people that they represent. And Lord, we promise to give you all the praise because you alone are worthy. And it's in Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Mr. McMorris, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, we'd like to let y'all know that there will be items on the agenda that we have public input on, and we'll identify those and let the public know at what time they can do that. Item 7 was presentations, Embrace the Gulf 2020 proclamation. However, the young lady that was going to do that, her company will not let her come out, and we didn't get the proclamation emailed in time, so we're going to skip item 7 tonight. Item 8, adoption of the minutes from the June 25th, 2020 regular meeting of Livingston Parish Council.
So
Got a motion by John, second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any objection? There being no objection, the minutes are adopted. Parish President's report. Sam, are you handling the bid on the dump truck tonight?
I wasn't prepared for it.
Okay.
We
We got the bid here. The DPW had requested a dump truck with a Warren dump body or equivalent. The bids were received, and the recommendation from the purchasing agent, Ms. Jennifer Fridella, was that Capital Mac was the low bidder. There were 3 bids. In fact, Old River Truck Sales bid $124,117.47. Capital Mac billed $123,752.00. All Truck was actually low bid at $111,019.00. However, the equipment they bid on did not meet the specs and were not comparable, so the bid was disqualified, and the recommendation for purchasing is that we accept the low bid of Capital Mac. Is there somebody who wants to make a motion? Got a motion by Scooter, second by Ms. McMorris. Any objection? No objection, then the bid carries. Introduction of ordinance. This is for Ms. Jennifer. I'm sorry, Sam.
That's okay, you handled it well.
This is millage adjustments. Item A, adopt adjusted millage rates, introduction of ordinance, and set the public hearing.
Yes, this is for our ad valorem. So this is a roll forward year, reassessment year. So there's 2 ordinances in front of you. The first ordinance will, each year the assessor tells us what the millage equals out to with the reassessment. It's a lower number than the maximum that the public voted on. We have to adopt those. And then the second ordinance rolls forward that, levies that and rolls it forward to the maximum voted on by the public. So there's 2 separate ordinances required in a roll forward year.
And this is just for the public hearing.
Yes, sir, just we gotta
introducing.
let Sandy read them first. So Sandy, you wanna read the first one by title?
This will be proposed ordinance 20-17. This is an ordinance setting the millage rates as adjusted for the tax year 2020. The public hearing will be at 6 p.m. on September the 10th.
Got a motion by Mr. Delat. Do I have a second by Mr. Ard? Any objection? No objection. Then the date set forward. Item B, you wanna read it, Sandy?
So, this will be proposed ordinance 20-18. This is an ordinance to levy adjusted millage rates after reassessment and roll forward the millage rates not to exceed the prior year's maximum rate for the tax year 2020. The public hearing will be on September the 10th at 6 p.m.
We got a motion by Mr. Harris, got a second by Mr. Ard again. Is there be any objection? No objection, then we're gonna move forward with that item. Let's see, 11, Planning Commission. Thank you, Ms. Meyer.
Appreciate it. Why do we have two sets of these?
Go after Sam, because Sam can be, Sam, Planning Commission.
I'm ready for that.
Okay, come on.
Okay, guys, first on the agenda is the Cane Market Road Townhomes. This is a multifamily development. This is Mr. Gary Talbot's district. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Cane Market Road Townhomes.
I'd like to make a comment about this. Is the engineer, with Centerline or something, you want to come on up and explain about the sewer thing so we can make that contingent on the motion?
Yes, sir. How y'all doing? Name is Bo James Booty, Centerline Engineering, here on behalf of the developer, AP Dotson. As far as the sewer is concerned, we did submit, as was required by the planning commission, to the sewer department. Haven't heard back exactly where the sewer line was at, so we prepared, I didn't see any sign of it, we're just walking around out there. So we prepared as if we wouldn't have any sewer to tie into. We created a separate track for a treatment plant and a pump station. But if there's public sewer that's accessible to us, I mean, especially as long as it's economically feasible, we'd be happy to tie into it. It'll be better for us.
Well, when I saw it on the agenda today and looked at the plans, I called Mr. Idell. Y'all actually made a submittal, but didn't pay the review fee. So that's why it kind of got sidetracked.
Okay.
So there is sewer right there. And I think they had a conversation either with your company or Mr. Dotson today. And so we're gonna approve this contingent upon them tying the sewer because the sewer's right there.
Okay.
It's within the allocated footage and all that stuff. So would somebody help me out and make a motion, Scooter, to approve it contingent upon it?
Do we know if it's, just a question, do we know if it's a force main or?
You're gonna have to put a lift station in tying to a force main, and then basically get with the sewer district. They're gonna give you some specs that they want, which will probably be more than you normally need on the lift station, and they'll give you credit for the upgrades, and then they'll give you credit for the force main off the site against your sewer impact fees. Because you're gonna be draining to Beaver Creek, which was gonna which was gonna cost, run the cost of that plant up because of the discharge, because of the discharge standard you were gonna have to meet because of loadings in Beaver Creek, they're requiring a different permit.
Okay.
So I think you're gonna find it's gonna definitely be economically feasible. And then, plus I think you're within the 300 feet or whatever it is that requires. So you're gonna have to I know the design now has a plant in the back. You might, I don't know, you'll have to look at the economics to move it to the front. Where do you put the force main? That'll have to be y'all's call.
Okay. And so I want to make sure I heard correctly. You said if there's any, I guess, above and beyond improvements, there is availability for sewer.
On the lift station, typically what you need to put in as a lift station and typically what the sewer district would like to see you do tends to be different. They usually don't pay for off-site improvements. However, sometimes they'll ask you to do a lift station a particular way and they'll reimburse you through credits, sewer impact fee credits.
Right.
On the upgrades. So that's typically what happens with them in that particular situation, so that they get uniformity in their lift stations.
Mr. Talbot, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Will this development or this lift station service only the development for here, or will it allow for other areas to gravity feed into this lift station?
If they'll, basically what happens is Gravity 2 will design, sewer district will design a lift station, and the way they do the pumps, they have the ability to change the amount of water that the
So
pump
other
can-
properties
So
can
other properties will be able to
gravity feed
utilize it
into
at a
that
later
lift
date.
station. Well,
You can't have it out pump what feeds it, so they'll have it set at one level. Then they can change the belts on the pulley and increase the volume, and so it allows,
Other-
that's why they'll give them credit.
Well, that's
why they'll
fantastic.
do
That's
credits on
fantastic.
And so it will be publicly, the lift station will be publicly.
It will be publicly maintained, it won't be all
Yeah.
responsibility anymore. Which the private sewer treatment plant would either have to be y'all's or some operator that y'all hire.
Right. Okay.
So the motion is contingent
Upon
on that,
Yeah.
with Scooter, we had a second from Randy, I believe, and there's no objection, then we're gonna move
Motion
forward.
carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sam, I'm sorry.
Next on the agenda, guys, is Allen Trails. This is a subdivision with improvements, preliminary plat. This is in Mr. John Wascom's district. It's right there off of Highway 16. It is the recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Allen Trails.
I make the motion.
A motion by John, second by Mr. McMorris. Any objection? So ordered. C.
Okay, next on the agenda is a commercial development, Osgood Fire Station. This is in Mr. Scooter King's area, on Myers Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Osgood Fire Station with a waiver, and that is a setback waiver. They've got all,
Yeah, it's not gonna impede on
involved in it,
anyone.
so he knows much about it.
Yeah, I've talked to fire chief, talked to different people that designed it and things, and, I'll make a motion to accept it with the
A
waiver.
motion by Scooter, got a second by Mr. Harris. No, any objection from the council? So order D, please, Mr.
Okay, next on the agenda is another commercial development. This is in Mr. Tracy's district. Income tax and notary Inc. preliminary site plan with a waiver on building line setback, buffer zone. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for Income Tax and Notary Inc.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yeah, I've actually looked at this one in great detail too. And I've been talking to McLean Taylor and Associates. They said it's not going to be an issue. The waiver setback is not going to be a problem. So, and I went with it too. The affidavit was they needed the same thing. They didn't have enough distance, but the neighbor behind them gave them the permission for the right of way. So they're good.
We got a motion. You got the affidavit. You got a motion by Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. McMorris. Any objection within the council? Being none, so ordered. All right, thank you, Sam. Now, look, Sam, we're gonna move 19 up to right now, which is the discussion of drainage flooding on Paradise Road, Morpall, just in case you wanna hang around for a minute.
Sure.
Randy asked for this to be put on, Councilman Delat asked this to be put on the agenda.
I have 3 residents, a couple, 4 or 5 residents that want to speak on this. Miss Pat Guess, I think, is the first one that called me, and if you want to recognize her, Mr. Chairman.
Come on up, young lady. Just state your name and address when you get to the podium up there, please.
My name is Patricia Guess. I live at 14674 Paradise Road, Maurepas, Louisiana.
Go ahead.
My public input is on the drainage problem on Paradise Road, Maurepas. I am a 33-year retired school teacher from Amite High School, the alma mater of our Governor John Bell Edwards. I'm grateful for this opportunity to speak to this council, and I thank Councilman Delat for his interest in our problem of the drainage situation. Thank you, Miss Angie, for your kindness and concern for setting up my place on the agenda. Appreciate it. I speak to you with a heavy heart for the lack of compassion shown during this year and a half of absolutely no effort to solve this drainage problem. The booklet which will be given to each of you tonight was prepared by Micah Change, who has committed his life to helping an 80-year-old Carolyn Stewart Board, a 73-year-old Virginia DeVille, and me, 73-year-old Pat Guess, to live in a safe home. Micah has dedicated his life and time and effort to help us live in a safe environment. My heavy heart is for my Jenny, who woke up April the 10th to see 5 DPW workers under her bedroom window, and she was so frightened and concerned. Jenny was at home to die. She had been terminal and classified that she could come home to die with a terminal illness. She woke up to 5 men underneath her bedroom window, and she was so frightened. Who are you? Why are you in my yard? She yelled that out, and as she did, and as the heavy road equipment began to operate to dredge out her ditch that she could see from her window, she went to her door. She was crying hysterically and frightened. And Carolyn Board, 80 years old, rushed from my house. I'm Carolyn's caregiver. Carolyn rushed from my house to see about Jenny and what was happening to our Jenny. Huey Como yelled at Carolyn to get back into her house immediately, not to come out, or I'll call the police on you too. At that time, a patrol car pulled into Jenny's driveway and approached her to tell her to calm down and to go back in her house. This patrol officer, Sheriff's Department patrol officer, was called by Huey Como on an 80-year-old woman and a 73-year-old terminally ill, loving person to shut them up and not to interfere. And Carolyn was told, if you don't go back in your house, stay in your house, or I will call the police on you too. Jenny died May 2nd after having fallen and laid on her floor for 3 days. Jenny died. All the drainage, or lack of it, is diverted to my home site, my lot, which is next door to Jenny's home. Carolyn's 80 years old, on a walker, and quite feeble at times. She has good days and bad days, but to get her into my car to go to doctors or appointments is difficult, especially when there's 3 to 4 feet of water underneath my car. We can't get to the mailbox. We can't walk her puppy. And it's 3 or 4 feet deep in my RV house where we used to entertain, have lovely times together, barbecue, visit with friends. The other lots are drained and bone dry. They're drained and bone dry, and we're under 3 or 4 or 5 feet of water. I live on an island. I'm surrounded by water. Every drop of rain accumulates and is diverted to an 8-inch pipe next to my house, an 8-inch wide PVC pipe, which has collapsed due to the water pressure, and this pipe runs to the canal. Not one drop of rain accumulated drains into the Amy River. Not one drop of rain is diverted into the Amy River. Only one has this problem solved. Only one has this problem solved. Totally solved. God sending all rain and runoff to the Amy River with the help of DPW. DPW put a giant culvert under Paradise Road, which brings every drop of rain to my home, every drop. Thank you for my time tonight, and I only wish that my Jenny had lived to see the drainage problem solved. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. We're going to let everyone speak, but before we go on to the next speaker, I want to personally apologize for the way that you were treated and the way that your friends were treated. But I also want to say that I know Mr. Sam over here, and he is one of the most well-caring high character guys that I know. And when he gives you your word, his word is good. He is a good man. We're proud to have him. I'm not saying everybody in the parish sometimes has bad days or good days. I'm not saying none of that. But I do know that you owe an apology, and I personally apologize to you.
Appreciate this kind words, sir, and I met Mr. Sam, he's one of the finest men
He
I ever
is.
met.
And it's his department, and he'll get to the
And
bottom of it, I
respect him
promise
and
you.
his position and his goodness to me over these years of working on this has been going on. But Mr. Sam is one of the finest men
And I agree with
I ever
that.
met. And I appreciate knowing him.
Okay. You know, I think that, I mean, I got the email on, thank you, ma'am.
Appreciate
I
it.
got the email about what we've actually done. We have gone out there and done some stuff to address the drainage, and we've had, I think, Sam, you want to get up, you want to comment on, or do you want AFA to comment on what we've determined before we can let everybody speak, but I mean, I think before we go forward, we need to just identify the stuff that and then we've got some legal issues we got to figure out on servitude and some other things, but.
Let's hear from the audience. They may have something.
Okay, that's fine. We'll let them and then we'll speak last. That's fine.
My name's Micah Change. My address is here in Denham, but I own 3 lots next to these ladies here on Paradise Road. I've been, my grandfather's been there since '79, so I know what the drainage did back then. I know how things were. When I first started this endeavor, I said, there must have been a mistake. Somebody made a mistake. Let's just try to figure this out. Well, after the things that have gone on, I can say there's no mistake in the fact that they're purposely sending this water through here. Now, in being here for all these years, I know for a fact that these ladies' yard didn't flood over those years, and I lived next door. I moved out of there in '97 was the last time I lived there. So my property, my 2 lots over there are at the same elevation as they always were since my grandparents was there in the '80s. So all the construction around us does not change which way my water flows because it's still the same ground. So in saying that, all these years, DPW has contended that the water goes away from Miss Pat's RV house, when in fact it actually all converges to Miss Pat's. When I brought up the problem of this pipe under Paradise Road, I didn't realize how bad the situation was. Actually, it's not just the pipe in front of Miss Pat. The one down toward lot 16 or so is not taking on any water at all. So all of that water is coming down to Miss Pat's house to try to get in between lot 8 and 9, which I showed Jimmy Stewart, Cooney. I brought him out there. I had a piece of 3/4 inch PEX that's long enough to go from the road all the way to the canal. And I showed him how long it was. And if I ran it through that pipe, it should have come out of the canal. Now, that PEX ran off in there, should have been out the other end, and wasn't. I can run water in that 8-inch pipe. No water comes out of the end I'm putting it in, and no water comes out of the other end. That pipe is collapsed, and there's a crevice under lot 8 and 9 right now. And all this time, I'm trying to get help. These pictures and the dates and everything that's going on in that folder right there proves that from the time they shot a grade and proved that they showed they could have gave us 50% of relief by fixing that one problem right directly in front of us. But they chose to open that culvert and let like a Olympic-sized swimming pool of water come across to these ladies' yard and turn around and left. Now, this is the day that they called the police on these ladies. So they opened this drainage and flooded them and left, and did not offer them any help at all. So from that time to now, I've been in offices looking to see, okay, So who do I go to report how they're treating these elderly ladies? Well, let me tell you, there's not an office in our parish that will take that complaint. There's not one office in this parish you can't file a formal written complaint against a parish, anybody.
Mr. Chairman, there is a procedure if it's a parish employee that you approach your supervisor. You can do it in written form, or you can do it by telephone. The written supervisor will make an investigation, and he will determine if there's any thing that needs to be done about it. And if so, if there is something done, that employee can then appeal that by a 3-member board. So there is a procedure to do that, and you probably wasn't told in the past.
That's nobody that I have approached
Yeah,
with this problem.
yes.
Because as soon as they say drainage, then there's no problem with the way these ladies were treated. They go back to DPW, and DPW say, oh, we got it handled. Well, it's not handled because they think we're just fussing about this one pipe, and it's not. The whole neighborhood is converging on Miss Pat's house. And now I own Miss Virginia's house next door. So the collapsed pipe is actually Miss Virginia's, connected to my other 2 lots. So it just has to be totally addressed.
We just wanna know the address so we can find it on the map.
14670. There's a map right there in that.
Yeah, I
folder.
see, look, which lot number would that be on here?
It's in between 8 and 9. There's a 8-inch drain pipe
That's
there.
where that little pipe
Yes,
is,
sir.
okay.
But here's
okay.
the thing. Now, on that map, when Mr. Butt presented this to develop this, those 2 8-inch pipes were put in place for Mudd's Paradise Point. Brown's campsites already existed. So those 2 8-inch pipes, they keep trying to tell me all of this is supposed to drain through 2 8-inch pipes. Calculate how much property and how much water is collected and how much goes in an 8-inch pipe. Nothing computes. There's no logical explanation why all that water has to come through these ladies' yard. And there's nowhere that I've looked up, and I know there's calculations that would accommodate, 2 8-inch pipes would accommodate all this area.
Okay.
I'm just.
I think part of the issue is that back in the day when these things were designed, they weren't approved by the parish. They were just built, you know, and if I'm correct, you know, Mudd's Paradise Point was private. The parish took the road in at some point in time later, but the original development was private, so whatever engineering was done.
And that was part of our thing with DPW. When I said it was a mistake, Melvin Mudd tried to charge these people $300 a piece to put that rusty old pipe in there, okay? Now, DPW, the only paperwork they have on that pipe is when they came in and blacktopped, they changed that pipe.
Right.
I've been trying to tell them it was wrong to start with. Brown's campsite, all they did, a bunch of them on that side, because their property is supposed to be worth more because it's on the Amite River, and ours is worth less because it's on the canal, and that's what the whole thing is. And these people over here, they all browbeat Melvin Mudd and threatened him with a lawsuit, so he tried to charge everybody $300, put a pipe in there. The one on the end in the curve drains all the water from the riverside into them ladies' yard over there and just stops. I mean, how do you dump water from one side of the road to the other and don't do anything with it? But there's ways around this.
We got a report from the engineer, we're gonna get to that in a minute, but.
Well, had they not opened that one pipe would have been 50% of these ladies' problem. I mean, every day, just a normal rain, they got this much water in between the house.
So do we have anybody else that wants to speak on this particular item? Anybody from, okay, Sam, do you want to come address it? Do you want the engineer to come address it? How do you want to handle this particular?
Well, you know, as far as the controversy between the landowner and the public works, I mean, I wasn't there. I made several trips down there to try to get a problem resolved, and I turned it over to my assistant, and I mean, we can sit here all night long and point fingers. I don't think my assistant nor my foreman, I wasn't there, but I'm just working with them over the past 10 years like I have. They've got pretty good finesse about it. Now, you know, you come on somebody and go ahead.
I don't want to put him on the spot or anything. I'm just, they got a problem, and if we can just do a little something, it'll help them. I know that we got an estimate of $50,000, and I thought that was way too much to do to help one hand. I couldn't get that passed here to help one person. But he mentioned, Micah mentioned something about a 15-inch cover got put down that put more water on them.
I think, and if I may correct, understand, it's a 15-inch pipe that's going across the road, that there was concrete poured on your side to stop the water from coming over there. Is that the pipe you're talking about?
That pipe that was clogged up, yes, sir. That's the pipe I'm referring to that Melvin Mudd actually put in there. DPW did not put that in there.
Well, we don't have any way of knowing that, I think, and I just wanted to stand to apologize to these people if we acted in the wrong fashion. But to get to the problem, the ladies and yourself, I mean, we reached out to Alvin Fairman because we went out there and we took a lot of profile out there. Well, we decided we'd bring a professional team in. And I think Thomas, I don't know if Thomas was involved in the actual profile or not, but he knows about it because his chief engineer kind of filled him in. And Thomas, if you want to kind of share some of the information that was done, Alvin went out there for us just to try to help the situation. Now, I don't know how much money, there's a they got a problem out there, but it's always been a problem.
And so, come on, Al, I mean, Thomas, come explain to me what y'all did and what solution y'all have, and let's take into, before we talk, let's talk about this one thing. We don't have any servitude. You know what I'm talking about? So, Randy, I think where that 8-inch pipe runs, there is no servitude for us to go in there and work. But let's let Thomas talk about what they shot, what they found out.
Well, it appears like we determined that everything does drain to that area, like she's saying. But I mean, I don't believe the entire development drains there, but a majority of it does drain to that one cross drain that was put in when it was a private development. And like Mr. Gary said, that I mean, the pipe does need to be replaced. It is too small. It's not going to handle the flow, but getting in there to replace that pipe, I mean, there's large mature trees in there. There's 2 camps that are very close to it. It's going to be a lot of work to replace that pipe where it's at. I mean, the price that we budgeted, that $60,000 we budgeted, we can make a suggestion that we could bring this ditch on the east side and go north with it. And if you can acquire some kind of servitude, there is some property there that we could possibly acquire some servitude and redirect the water to flow somewhere else with a larger pipe. But it's all going to be about, if you can acquire the servitude.
Okay, so my question, Thomas, to you is, if we were given servitude between lots 8 and 9, because they're obviously the 2 most impacted individuals.
Where the 2 lots that the culverts are.
The culvert between. If we were given servitude by them, is there enough room between structures to run the pipe?
I believe so. We didn't take a tape measure, but I do believe that there is enough room between the 2 structures where we could get up in there and replace that pipe.
Except for the trees that have to come out.
And you're looking at these trees are so close to these structures that they're going to need to be topped. You're going to start from the top, and you're going to have to hand do each tree. You just can't lay them down.
Right.
And I mean, they're large mature trees, and I'm not sure if they would want their trees. Right.
Well, I understand. I just want everybody to understand that there are 2 options here, and the option of getting the servitude from the individual's benefit is the cost associated with the trees. The other thing is you can reroute it, but then you've got to buy servitude from somebody else. So I don't know which is the most cost-effective way to address it at this point in time.
And I'm not even sure. I mean, like I said, these are very mature trees, and they may not. I don't even know how they feel about the trees right there.
Well, I just think the council needs to be aware of what the 2 options are and evaluate themselves. Go ahead, Randy.
I want to talk about some more options. I agree it's too hard to try to go with an 8-inch piece of pipe is. I don't think that's doable. But I think what they're saying is with the 15-inch culvert that's across the road, that's a deal breaker. That's what's putting more water on them than anything else. Why does the 15-inch culvert have to be at that location? Why does it have to, can't we go, Mr. Sam, at a different location where we have ditches at and put a cross culvert?
Well, the 15-inch pipe, if we're all talking about the same one, that's the one that It's had concrete in it for a long time, and that's when we detected it.
All I know is that since the flood of 16 is when that pipe became clogged up, and I was contacted in 17 by Miss Virginia DeVille about helping her be able to get out of her driveway.
When Fairman looked at the place, and I'm sure, I don't know, does the 15-inch pipe need to be there? Because it does drain one side of the property.
Yes, it drains.
For these folks to cross.
And that water could go to the river, Mr. Sam, instead of going on to the top of the hill.
All right, sir, you got to come up to this podium and speak, but let's get the rest of the answer first.
Yes, sir.
As far as 15-inch pipe, I don't know anything about the 15-inch pipe.
Mr. Sam, can we go look at that one more time, maybe?
Sure. I mean, this all started with neighbor's building.
Yeah.
Across the road, and he was having a lot of water gather up on his place, and the water was falling down to this 15-inch pipe, and it was clogged up. So when we went out there and done, not knowing, I mean, and they overlaid that road, they did some engineering work. I didn't know that this month fellow put the pipe in, we just assumed that the engineer engineered the pipe to be there. So we unclogged the pipe. And that's when this thing boiled up.
Okay, so us doing maintenance on what was built privately a long time ago without any engineering that we approved has caused an additional problem. So, and so I guess, Randy, is that we've already spent money with AFA to come up with a solution. And so I guess the question is,
I think everybody's worked hard at it, and I think we closed. I disagree with the 15-inch pipe because I think it was put in when the road was overlaid. Is that correct, guys?
Melvin Mudd put that pipe.
He put it in before it was overlaid?
I tried to explain that to DPW, and when DPW shot the grade before they opened that pipe, there was, Huey Como stood there and said, there's still a 12-inch pitch to the river. There's no reason why that water cannot go to the river. Now, the next day, he come out there and said it changed, and that man is bringing in 10 more loads of landfill, and now
I got a
that
suggestion.
picture in there shows
Well, that's a
what
civil.
that
That's what
picture
I'm
in
telling
there- Sorry, I don't think it would have been a civil matter had the parish just left that pipe alone, that man would have had to drain to the river. Now that the parish opened that pipe, they have opened a gateway for anybody else to flood us. Is the whole point. I was trying to stop them and have them assess the situation before they flooded.
okay,
Let
okay.
me
They
do
could
this.
stop
Okay,
what's
so Sam, come on up and tell us what's DPW gonna do
Let me
initially?
do this. Let me get with our parish president Monday morning. Let me see if he'll agree for me to ask Mr. Farrell, because they got the most profile on this thing, to go out there and let's see how much damage this 15-inch pipe is doing to this side of the property.
Okay, wait, look, nobody's hearing what anybody's saying in the TV because nobody's at the podium. We're gonna send DPW out there if parish president agrees, and we're gonna move forward to try to solve your problem. I think that's all we at the council can do right now is we've been made, the public's been made aware of it, we've been made aware of it. We're gonna see if we can find a solution.
And I want to add one more
Come
thing.
on up, you got something to say.
I want to add
And we
one
need to
more thing.
move, really need to move on
Mr.
past
Chairman,
this.
let me add one more thing.
Just a couple of questions. The point I was trying to make about those 2 8-inch pipes were they never was designed for all the water on Brown side. So in trying to help us, why are we still saying we have to accommodate all of their water?
Because you say it wasn't designed that way, but basically,
Paperwork says that.
well, when AFA goes out there and does a profile on it now, he says that's the way the water drains. So, and we don't know what happened in the past because there are no plans within the parish and the parish didn't approve the design, the parish wasn't responsible for the design as it existed. So the owner, you tell me, Mr. Mutt, put the pipe in. At that point in time, that was his development. Look, we're gonna see if we can find a solution to the problem. Whether eliminating that 15-inch pipe is a solution, I don't know, but we're trying to move forward to find a solution.
If you look, and I understand it's a crude drawing, you'll see how much of the water from across the street used to go in the river. Now, had they left that pipe alone, clogged up, I don't care if they get rid of it, whatever, all they had to do was put a little bit of dirt there. They already had a 12-inch pitch to the river. Right now, if you go shoot a grade on that lot across from Miss Pat, it pitches from the river to the road. He made one giant funnel, and the skinny end is that 15-inch pipe.
And
Collecting everything.
And that in itself is a civil matter. It's
But
not, well,
DPW gave
you-
him
I mean,
the
wait,
access to do it.
But wait a second, if somebody put dirt on their property and directed it to you, that's a civil matter that you need to address. And
I
so,
understand
we're
that,
gonna
but
try to,
had
we're
they
gonna
not
try
opened that
to,
pipe,
we're
it
gonna
wouldn't
try to
have
solve the
affected us.
15-inch pipe problem, but the rest of it's gonna civil matter you're gonna have to address.
It was DPW that caused it to happen.
All right.
I want to request and ask if, I think Mr. Sam had a good idea, talk to the parish president and see what we can do. I think the 15-inch pipe is the culprit, is the culprit. And if it doesn't need to be there, then that would solve the problem. If it's still got to be there, then he's going to have to address it as a civil
Okay,
suit.
and so we can talk about it all day long, but we're not the engineers. so
But one thing is, we have a public record, and if it does go to court, we can use this public record to go to
Okay.
court.
All right.
I'm in favor, I
Thank
want to
you.
go in and say, I'm in favor for us addressing that 15-inch pipe.
All right, thank you. Item 12, public hearing and adoption of Livingston Parish Ordinance 20-14. Ms. Sandy, would you read it? I want to note that there was a typo. Ms. Sandy, you want to tell us about the typo?
Yeah, and the title, when the engineer and developer sent over the ordinance, I didn't catch it. It says servitude, and it should be servitude.
Okay, so just go ahead and read it by title, and then we're going to open the public hearing.
20-14, ordinance revoking the dedication of land and quitclaim in favor of landowners of 40-foot all-purpose servitude across a certain tract of land formerly the Albert Fontaine property located in section 28, township 7, south range, 3 east, Greensburg Land District, east of Mississippi River, Livingston Parish, Louisiana, being more particularly prescribed here.
At this point in time, we'd like to open the public hearing. Does anybody like to comment? No comment. Would somebody like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. King. Any objection to closing? Public hearing is closed. Would somebody like to, is there any council member like to comment? Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt? Got a motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. McMorris. Is there any objection on item 12? There being no objection, item 12 carries. Item 13, public hearing and adoption of Livingston Parish Ordinance 20-15. Ms. Sandy, would you read it by title, please?
Yes, sir. This is an ordinance to rescind and reenact Chapter 70 Utilities, Article 5 Sewage Disposal Systems, Section 70-266 Inspection of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston to amend the guidelines for required sewer permits.
I'd like to open a public hearing at this time. Is there anybody who would like to comment on the public hearing? Nobody in the public would like to comment. I'd like to have a motion to close the public hearing. Got Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. Ard. Is there any councilman that'd like to comment on this? No comment by council. We'd like to vote on item 13. Well, we got a motion by Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. Ard. At this time, there being no objection, any objection? Item 13 carries. Item 14, public hearing and adoption of Livingston Parish Ordinance 20-16. Ms. Sandy, would you read it by title?
Oh, no, I don't have it in my packet.
Here. Here's a copy of it.
What kind of deal is that?
Oh, so I'm sorry. This is proposed ordinance 20-16, an ordinance to rescind and reenact chapter 125 subdivision regulations of the Code of Ordinances in and for the Parish of Livingston to amend the chapter in its entirety.
Okay, Sandy, I need to ask you questions. Okay, so we've got to have a public hearing on this. However, there are some amendments that we need to issue. Do we need to have the public hearing, then make the amendments, then have the public hearing again? Could we have one public hearing? Okay, so at this point in time, I'd like to open the public hearing on item number 14. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to comment? Nobody wants to comment. Can I have a motion to close by Mr. Ard, second by Mr. Girlinghouse? These amendments that we have are basically housekeeping. There's one that's not housekeeping, that's a recommendation ordinance committee. I'm gonna read them for you real quick. On page 1, where it talks about the sections, we're gonna add section 125-82. That came out of legal as a housekeeping item. If you go to page 7, if you go to page 7 under section 125-11, paragraph B, where we're talking about the signs, it's new additional filings. And you're gonna see that word new pop up plenty in here. If you go to the next page on item 9, you see new pop up, and then everywhere it addresses the sign, legal wants said we needed to add this wording at the bottom to talk about the sign must remain visible and upright through the construction phase, failure to keep the sign visible and upright is a cause of project work to be stopped by parish, and until the sign is corrected, the developer is responsible for any and all associated costs, including attorney fees. You're gonna see that come up again in the deal.
Now, you're looking for a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we gotta read it, we gotta go for the amendments,
Yeah,
we
you gotta
gotta
read
go
it
for the
in.
amendments, then we get a motion. The next one is on page 9.2. The following sign will be required for subdivision with improvements. You'll see the word new again, and in the same language that we just read. If you go again, you gotta go to page, bear with me, I'm trying to go with these stickies. Go to page 20. This was a recommendation that came out of the ordinance committee. If you go down to where it's on I, all subdivisions, re-subdivisions, and then 2, it says curb and gutter shall be required and approved by the review engineer and the planning director unless the development meets the following requirements, or. So, and then, or it, and then the requirements are A, minimum lot size of 32,670 square feet, minimum lot width of 100, 60-foot right-of-way, open ditches shall have side slopes of 4:1, and density shall not exceed 1 lot per acre. Those are changes that are offered up, and that was by recommendation out of the ordinance committee, which allows us to build an old-timey subdivision without curb and gutter and get some big lots back in this parish. The next change is on page 27. All that does is everywhere that Gravity 2 had made some requests, that Gravity 1 concurred on them, and so it says 1 and 2. There's a good possibility that we're gonna amend it more to say 5 and the parish at a later date. But right now, we've got recommendations on 1 and 2. The next amendment is on 30. If you go to the second paragraph under 125-50, public notice the following sign will be required for mobile home park developments. And then where it down later, where we strike out subdivision, we insert the word mobile home park. If you'll go to the page 33, under section 125-82, this was a recommendation out of the ordinance committee, commercial development duties and responsibilities. A, all commercial development landowners are responsible for the construction, repair, and maintenance of their drainage and fences. B, should any commercial development landowner not maintain their drainage and or fence, parish council and or Gravity Drainage District shall have access with or without the landowner's authorization to perform maintenance on any issue that their drainage and or fencing is causing. And I think that's it. So y'all see what the amendments are. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Got a motion by Mr. Girlinghouse, second by Mr. King. Is there any objection? No objection, then that motion passes. Item number 15, discussion of Amy River erosion in French settlement by Louisiana by residents of Cypress Point subdivision. This is by Mr. McMorris.
Yeah, we're gonna move it to the next meeting.
We're gonna push this back to another meeting. Item 16, adopt a resolution to include Riverscape subdivision roads in the parish maintenance system under the road type D. This is by Mr. Delat.
I have all the paperwork, gave it to Sandy. If I can get a second for that, I appreciate it.
Got a second by Mr.
You got all
Girlinghouse.
of it.
Is there any objection on the council? No objection, so ordered. Then those roads will be entered into the parish maintenance system. Item 17, adopt Laird Lane into the maintenance system under road type D located in Council District 7. We're gonna have to amend the type road D, that subset, that ordinance, because we said residences. And Laird Lane is a road full of businesses and there's no residents, so we're gonna address it at the ordinance committee.
Yes.
And we're gonna come back and come with some wording that addresses residences and or businesses. At that point in time, when it becomes legal, then we'll bring the Laird Lane item back up. Item 18, addition of roads for consideration to the capital outlay priority road list. This is by Mr. Mack. He asked me to handle this. He would like to add Good Road, which is located in his district, for consideration. Can I get a motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. Bubba
With a
Harris?
stipulation, he comes every week with adding a road. This is his
Well,
last
this,
time.
Hey, but he never said like he did.
I'll take it.
understand,
It's just for
it's
I'll
just
take
for
it. I'll take
consideration.
it.
So we got a motion by Mr. Delat, second by Mr. Harris. Is there any objection from the council? Okay, item 18 passes. We've already done 19. Item 20, adopt the resolution to send correspondence to state and federal delegation and to the Louisiana Council on Watershed Management, Region 7 and 8, regarding the dredging of Lake Maurepas in an effort to alleviate parish flooding. Mr. Delat.
I'm gonna need about 10 minutes, guys. Basically, what I wanna talk about is that the lake they quit dredging there in 1980. It's built up at least 4 to 5 feet. Even if we talk about dredging the mouth of Blind River and Amite River, even we do, it's not gonna do any good because the lake is gonna be higher. Right now, they're about equal there. There's some places in the lake that's ain't but 3 foot, you know, there's a lot of places. I remember as teenagers, it was deep. You could swim and not touch bottom. Now, I bet you the deepest point in certain spots is maybe 7 foot, 6.5 foot. It's just filled up. And they dredged now from 1933 to 1980. And that's 50 years of dredging. And we hadn't dredged since 1980. And I know this is gonna be a problem, but we fishing will cause more flooding than what we ever experienced before, not just because of the lake. Congressman Garrett Graves, which I hope is my favorite congressman, I hope he becomes governor, has allocated money to dig a canal from Mississippi River to replenish the swamps in the lake. That extra water is gonna make the swamps come back. And that is good for the sportsmen, but it's not good for the people that live around here, including the people that live way in Watson, because every bit of water has to go through Amite and Blind River and Divergent Canal. Every bit of it goes through the lake, right? You know, it's terrible. So let me tell you how many agencies is involved in this, and this is where I want to go. The Army Corps of Engineers has to grant this permit. They're the one, the dredging shut down 2 years earlier than it was supposed to because the Corps wouldn't renew the permit. So that's going to be the first step. So we're going to need people in Washington, D.C. to hear this resolution, okay? So that means it has to go to Senator Kennedy and Cassidy and all, not just our state delegation. There's another way to do this. This is a long process. It's not going to happen overnight, not even maybe in our lifetime, but somewhere it's got to start. It's got to be a public record start about how many dollars it's costing people in flood damage and so forth, but also lives. And if you go in Lake Maurepas right now, and if you go, say, from Blind River to Manchac, there's crab traps everywhere. You get caught up in your boat and everything. If you had a designated channel for navigation where you couldn't put your crab traps, I know at least one fatality that wouldn't be there now to this day because he was trying to get a net out stuck in his motor when he drowned. So that Wildlife and Fishery has a budget that they seem to not be able to spend. Maybe we also send this letter to the governor's office or to Wildlife and Fishery and treat this as a safety reason also, not just a flooding. There's a lot of things that we need to do, and I want to read a suggestion of a resolution, and y'all discuss and see if y'all like it or not, or what we can do. But the bottom line is that if we send a resolution in support of shale dredging to allow for the natural flow of Livingston Parish drainage to alleviate flooding and the savings of billions of dollars caused by the impact of damages by flooding, and to ask each agency we send this letter to support Livingston Parish and their effort to minimize flooding to Livingston Parish citizens. This has to go to the Louisiana Council of Watershed Management Region 7 and 8. We belong to 8, but Ascension Parish belongs to 7. And both regions will be affected by this. We need to send it to our state legislative delegation, as I said, to Governor John Bell Edwards. Even ask the Ascension Parish Council to be in support of dredging, because that's going to help them also. Also, like I said before, we need to get to Washington, D.C., and I named those congressmen. And I said the Wildlife Fishery and the Army Corps of Engineers. There's one more thing I want to say, that somewhere in this resolution, we need to send to Garrett Graves to ask him to consider putting pumps that would allow the water that comes in to go right back out when it's flooding. In the same canal that they're gonna flood the swamps in, he could put pumps and get the water right back out. Also, another great location is by Bayou Manshire before it even gets to Denham Springs. Those are all things that the water, the canals are already dug. It's just a simple thing of pumps. It's not engineering fees, it's not a whole lot of money in environmental fees. It's just to make it work both ways. And if we, as a group, would start the discussion and have it up, somewhere it be in the Denham Springs, Livingston paper, somewhere it be in, on TV, someone else will talk about it. Believe me, every time I go to the store, I go to church, or I go to a function, everybody say, what's wrong with y'all? Y'all don't know you gotta start from the bottom up? Yeah, we all know that, but how are we gonna do it? How are we gonna do it?
Randy,
So
I've got one thing, a question I'd like to ask you. You know more about it than I do. But why, there was a reason that they stopped the dredging in Lake Marpaw? And wasn't it because it was hurting the fishing or something like that?
Environmental concerns is when I got it shut down.
Right.
And yes, when you dredge, you make muddy water, but there's a way to combat that too, you know what I'm saying? Technology now is a lot different than what it was then. And even if we don't dredge but a channel to get the water off and not the whole lake, you start somewhere. But
Well, I think
just
it's a
doing a
good-
study, like I said, somewhere
I think
you
it's a
start
great
with.
plan, especially if we're gonna help the residents of Livingston Parish and Ascension Parish as well as that.
So Randy, you wanna make that a motion?
Yes, sir.
No,
Do we have a
second.
second? We got a second, Mr. Harris. Mr. Myers would like to come speak for a second before we take a vote.
I just want to remind y'all of something. So, Mr. Randy, can you please come sit down with me and Mr. Steve before we start moving on this? Because if y'all remember, we have Go Mesa funds. And when we first financed our Go Mesa deal, our anticipated revenues were $700,000 a year. As more oil rigs are added into this Go Mesa Act, our revenues annually are now $1.3 million. So we have potential Go Mesa funds, and dredging is a dirty word to the Army Corps, so please use bank stabilization or prevention of coastal erosion. And that qualifies to be Go Mesa projects. So we have maybe some alternative avenues or ways to facilitate a little quicker movement on that for you.
And I appreciate the information,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you,
So,
Mr.
so, so we got a motion and a second is there any objection from the council? You don't wanna call a roll call vote on this, or?
Oh, so we're presenting a
We're gonna present a resolution.
Do we have the wording on that?
Well, I tell you what, Randy, you wanna.
I can read about what I said, and then if y'all agree with that, then Sandy could put it in more legible terms.
Okay.
I want to send a resolution in support of shell dredging, and let me explain why. Because shell dredging means private enterprise.
Sure.
And we don't need any money to pay. They can do that on their own. And the benefit of that is going to drain. It's going to drain the parish. That's why I want to do that. So a resolution support of shell dredging to allow for the natural flow of Livingston Parish drainage to alleviate the flooding and the saving of billions of dollars caused by the impact of flooding damages. And to ask each agency we send this letter to also support Livingston Parish in their effort to minimize flooding to the Livingston Parish citizens.
Well, so the resolution will be to send this out, and then in the meantime, Randy can meet with Ms. Jennifer, and they might work on some wording, on some other ways that we can possibly use Go Mesa money to accomplish the same thing.
Might make them go,
In a
hey, they got a
different
little funding to
way.
start.
So do we want to, y'all, want to just call a roll on this thing?
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. McMorris?
Yes.
Mr. Delat?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion passed unanimously. Okay, Randy, so we in the rating, the last section of the deal right now. Item 21, grants, by resolution authorizing a grant application for cable on Red Oak, and then B was do you still need an update on the status of?
I want to pull that off the agenda.
Okay, so we pulling all of 21 off right now?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, we're gonna pull 21 off right now. Okay, 22 update on request to install a caution light at Louisiana Highway 63 and 42. How are you moving on that, Randy?
We got a letter somewhere, I think. Did y'all get the letter?
Yeah,
It's in the packet,
it's in fact,
so it's under
I just
item.
want to report, I don't know what they said, I'll be honest. I don't know.
Okay, real fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and read it, Sammy.
Okay, dear
Thank you,
Lucinda,
Jennifer.
this is in response to, Livingston Parish Resolution 045, requesting a caution light or other safety measures at the intersection of Louisiana Highway 63 and Louisiana Highway 42. This letter is to inform you of the study results and recommendations. As a result of this request, my staff performed a site visit and reviewed crash data provided by Louisiana State Police. While a review of the crash data revealed that a flashing beacon was not warranted at this time, it did indicate that a crash pattern is developing. Based on the results of the crash history review, my office will upgrade signage on all approaches to this all-way stop intersection. Single stop signs and stop ahead signs were posted on each approach to the intersection prior to the study. The district signs shop will install new oversized stop and stop ahead signs on each approach. We will also add supplemental oversized stop and stop ahead signs on the left-hand side of the roadway on each approach. This will provide motorists with additional warning of the stop condition at the intersection, and the other existing signs will be cleaned or upgraded as part of the work. If you have any questions or require any additional information, please do not hesitate to contact me.
If it's the council's pleasure, let's send a thank you, because I thought they acted on that pretty quick.
So we got we got a request by Randy for a thank you, second by Mr. King, no objection. Ms. Sandy, would you please send that letter? Item, let's see, did I turn the page to 23 has been deferred. 24, waiver request of section 110-11 pond excavation criteria and regulations to allow pond construction 20 feet instead of 35 from the property line, for Mr. Taylor Caldwell on 28-315 Wagner Road in Albany. Shane called, asked if we would handle that. He said that he has talked to the neighbor of this gentleman, that the 20 feet is going to encroach within the 35. He's satisfied with it. The other three neighbors all have similar ponds, so he would like for the council to grant the waiver. Got a motion by Mr. Wascom, second by Mr. Harris. Is there any objection? Okay, item 24 carries. Item 25, a waiver request. Section 125-7, driveway culverts and subsurface drainage to allow for subsurface drainage in subdivision. A, we're gonna handle these together because they're both in Shane's district. A, P Ridge Estates, Michael Ford, 31428 P Ridge Road, Albany, and B, P Ridge Estates, Glen Salino. I hope I pronounced that right. 31444 P Ridge Road, Albany. Shane's gone out and looked at these. These are actually, they're a subdivision only because it's a resub of property. It's actually on a parish road. The parish has done the work and approved the drainage. Shane's been out there. He's asked that we grant the waiver. Got a motion by Mr. Delat. We have a second by Mr. Girlinghouse, and no objection. Item 25 carries. Item 26, committee report. Ordinance committee.
Well, we actually couldn't meet, we didn't have a quorum this past Tuesday, so, we've been meeting every other Tuesday for the last few months, it seems like, so we're in good shape. I think at this moment, we're staring at, the ordinance about, taking people, if someone subdivides a piece of land, and at that point, you have to, make your driveway,
wide enough for growth.
For growth. And then, of course, one of the things we just added was, we're gonna take another look at the D.
Right, D.
Yeah,
We're
so
gonna fix the structure thing of D.
Yeah, we'd actually put in there was residential, which I
We
guess
did.
is one of those things, it's an oversight. So,
Yes, that's what it
we're
is.
gonna fix that language and then bring it back to the council, so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Girlinghouse. Mr. Ard, you got a comment on finance committee?
Well, some of what we discussed in finance was the millage, which we discussed that here already, which was rolling our millage up. We also had, Ms. Jennifer gave us some updates on some of our audits, our grants. One of them, we was getting, was like 300,000 back. I think the other one was like 150,000. Somewhere, so it looks like most of our money's starting to come back in from all that. All the sales tax is looking good, everything's still holding steady.
No COVID problem.
COVID's not hurting us,
Stay away, COVID.
or even though we don't have nothing on the shelves here, but
You're right.
we're keeping it fall off the shelves, it's helping us.
Yeah.
And she gave us our check register, which it was pretty big, because we ain't had a meeting in 2 months, but
And we get those,
That, everything seems to be looking good.
Mr. Ard, we get those every month, those check registers?
Yes, sir.
Yes, every month.
Okay, item 27, councilman comments, anybody want to comment?
Yes, I have one thing. So a lot of people watch Facebook a lot, right? So Mr. Brandon Browning has put on Facebook about the census. If you can go there and watch it, people in Livingston Parish to get more knowledge. He put on a great podcast last week. It was great. So commend Brandon for that. Go watch it, listen to it. If you have any questions, contact any of the councilmen, or even contact Brandon. He has a lot of knowledge.
I've seen it, and I
So-
also want to say congratulations.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that for the parish.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's important that we all get out. I wanna make a comment. Y'all keep Shane and his family in your prayers. Shane's not here tonight because he's had some members of the family that tested positive for COVID. He did not test positive, but he is having a quarantine, so y'all keep Shane and his family in y'all's
He
prayers.
did tell me that they're doing very well.
Yeah.
It's not effective.
But just keep them in their prayers. So, if there's nothing else, I'd like to have a motion for adjournment. By Mr. Orange, second by Mr. Wascom, with no objection. Thank you.
Motion carries.